Can also happen when you're trying to move things from point A to point B and you're looking at whether it should touch your office or whether it should not touch your office. There's some things to think about there. A lot of companies ship from the contract manufacturer. That again can look really good at first, but what can happen eventually is the contract manufacturer says either A, we're kind of running out of space, we don't want to hold all of these instruments any longer, or B, the contract manufacturer is probably pretty good at manufacturing, but they're not always great with shipping. So they're just sending off the product with some shipping company, might not be the best choice. The tracking visibility might not be particularly strong. So what happens, we see happening with a lot of our companies when they start doing that, before they really have a shipping process set up, is they're trying to get tracking visibility. They're calling the contract manufacturer. The contract manufacturer is trying to figure out where the shipment is. They don't really know. They're not really that focused on it. So it's hard for the client to get back to their client because all this information is being held at the contract manufacturer's site. Alternatively, your shipping partner can be connected directly with your manufacturer so that you can still ship from your manufacturer, but the shipping company that you use could go ahead and have a relationship, create a partnership so that they're keeping track of the shipping. They're deciding what carrier should be used. They're tracking the shipment so that you don't have to go back to a manufacturer to try to get this information, because that can be quite a process. So we found that either, a warehouse shipping from the contract manufacturer, or you can just use a simple outside warehousing space, which is also usually pretty easy to put your materials into, have them sit there until they're ready to go, especially if you're really scaling up.
Yeah, one of the things to think about here for the earlier stage device companies is typically there's this evolution, this process that you go through where you're a very early stage company, you're shipping from your contract manufacturer, then you start running into issues. They want to make 10 devices, you only have 3 to sell, you're asking them to store them, they run out of space there. So then people start storing it in their office. That's what this image is okay, well, we can store extra devices in our office and ship them from here. But over time, you run out of office space. It's not the best solution there. Maybe you don't have a loading dock. Maybe it's just not the best use of your office space. So then you start with a centralized warehouse. And then as companies grow, they start shipping internationally. They make that decision. Should we use an overseas distributor or not? So there's kind of like a standard evolution we see our medical device companies go through.
And one thing to remember, if you are going to work with an overseas distributor, it's really important to make sure that you have an agreement in place that includes the Incoterms when you're shipping. So most distributors will typically request Ex-Works. Ex-Works means that they're going to nominate their own freight forwarder. You're still involved in the process. You'll still have to fill out the export documentation, but they'll nominate their own freight forwarder. You'll get limited visibility. But there's a lot of details that go into that agreement that should be considered.
Some of our medical device companies will start selling overseas. Others start here in the U.S. But if they do start overseas, sometimes they'll send to a distributor. And in that case, if you have a distributor, usually you can send obviously larger quantities at the same time. That can bring, the price point down. For each shipment, each instrument. So that's a really good thing to, take a look at is, can you ship a large number of instruments at once? Can the distributor hold it? What does that look like? And, rather than sending them, individually and that would obviously be more expensive.